Hey everybody, I am Jill and this is my farm, Whispering Willow Farm. So welcome if you are new around here. I am so happy to have you. And if you are one of our faithful regulars, thank you for just sticking with us on this journey. We really do appreciate it. So today I am under my pavilion in the raised bed garden. It's kind of an overcast, cloudy day. The weather's perfect. And so I wanted to take this opportunity to share with you guys all about dahlias. I have mentioned before that this year we are really transitioning into dahlia production. We have a very large dream and vision for dahlias on our farm in the years to come. And this year we are, really just kind of dipping our toes into it and really starting to grow varieties that we've never grown before, and just really take some detailed notes. And I wanted to share this entire process with you because I've grown vegetables for 10 years now. Which seems crazy to think about, that I've been doing that. But I really feel like there are obviously so many areas that I can learn and grow when it comes to food production, but a lot of the things I know I feel comfortable with. If I come up with a pest, I know how to treat it. If my plants have some sort of deficiency, I know the correct amendment to give it. But flowers are really something over the past 2 years I've started to deep dive into, and I have really found a love, and I'm starting to kind of really expand my vision for that. And that's been a fun opportunity for me as a grower to just invest back in my own knowledge. And so this year we're doing a trial year. And what I mean by trial is it is a year where we are experimenting and we are not prepared to bring in any income from the dahlias. Now we are hoping to, but the goal isn't to go into this season being profitable with dahlias. The goal is to go into this season growing dahlia tubers, really figuring out our selection and the collections that we want to create, and then just learn as we are growing ourselves. So I'm going to unbox some of the dahlias that I bought. I'm going to talk with you guys through the places that I bought from, what we're doing, and then also something fun that I'm doing for record keeping for myself. So I hope you guys are ready to dive in. So first things first, who did I order my dahlia tubers from? I ordered from 3 different companies, and really kind of based in different areas. One of the things I'm really wanting to offer and learn as I am growing dahlias and figuring this out, most of the dahlia growers that you see or maybe you follow are northern growers. There's not a lot of southern dahlia growers, and that's because we live in a very hot, humid area. And so that's kind of where I'm wanting to niche down and figure out how do we grow varieties, selective varieties that are going to do really good in these southern, humid environments. So the first person I ordered from was Longfield Gardens. They are based out of New Jersey. We ordered the most of our, the bulk of our dahlias came from Longfield. One of the things I really liked about Longfield Gardens is instead of buying an individual tuber, you could buy these collections, and it ended up being quite a bit cheaper. And then the second place that we ordered from that I actually just got this in today was Goldenrod Gardens. And so they came, everyone packaged a bit differently. They all came in individual bags that were labeled. This one came in a big plastic bag, but then it had little tags with each variety on there. And then the last place that I ordered from, and I ordered the least amount from, they're called Skyfall flowers, and I'll put little text in here that way you guys can go check them out. But one of the things I did, I ordered these back in the winter. So I ordered them in the winter, and you can schedule out when they get shipped, which is really cool. You can do that with a lot of different flower bugs. And so I did that. I had all of them to be scheduled out in April because the goal is to be planting dahlias mid-May. My hope is to be planting 3 48-foot long beds, and like I said, the purpose of this is to grow my dahlia collection. So what I did, because I had the spare time in the winter to do this, is I am a sucker for those big post-it notes. I literally have them plastered, all in my dining room. I think I've shared this on my Instagram before. I absolutely love just having a big piece of notebook paper just to jot down ideas. This is a great way to cast vision. If you are creating a dream board or a vision board, you can order them online. You can go to any sort of office supply store and find them. This was actually a kid's coloring page that I stole. And what I did is at the top here, maybe I can show y'all, it's a bit windy. I just printed out the logo of who it was from. I wrote out each variety and I printed a photo. So I've got Lakeview Lucky and I put the number of dahlia tubers. So let me try to zoom in so you guys can see here. So I've put a photo of it, how many tubers, and I do this all the way down. And then I also have a space on the other side. So in the middle I have a space for notes, and then over here on the bottom I've got, you know, I just took a ruler and I tried to make these lines, and it just says contenders for WW Farm collection. And so I went through and I did this with all of the places that I bought dahlia tubers from. And so one, this is really good because it allowed me to see what collections I had. So like over here, I've got a burgundy collection, which would be great to do for a later planting into fall. I've got one that's a flirty floors. I've got a soft orange mix. So there's all these different collections, and I know again how many, and then I do have a total at the end. So like from Longfield Gardens, I've got 18 tubers. You know, from Goldenrod, I have 35. I also have on here listed out the price per tuber, so I know my cost. Something else I will be doing throughout the years, I've created a dahlia spreadsheet, and I will do a video later in the season breaking down what the spreadsheets look for me. It's going to be all of our cost analysis, investment, everything like that, and I do think that's really, really crucial when you're trying to be profitable on something. The more organized you are, typically you're just going to set yourself up for success. So I wanted to unbox these with you. Now, you don't have to be detailed like me. You don't have to take any notes. You certainly don't have to print off photos. I mean, this was like a full afternoon of just like creating my collection on paper. But I liked that because I can then go right beside the variety that I'm growing and take notes. And if it's on my wall, it's going to be easier than getting lost in a notebook. I can tell you, having not grown dahlias in the past, I knew what a tuber looked like based off of growers that I follow online who grow dahlias. And that is not quite what I received from some of them. And I think I just maybe didn't have a clear expectation. How they all shipped them, like I said, was a bit different. One thing I really like about Goldenrod is they ship them all with these tags on them with what they are, and then they are singles, and there's already the eye sprouting. So what I'll do is I'm actually going to up pot these, which we're going to go in the greenhouse in a minute. I've already started this process and I'm going to show you guys because I'm not ready to plant these out yet, and they're already starting to sprout. So when they're doing that, I don't want to keep them in a cardboard box. I need to give them some dirt, let them sprout, and then I'll plant them out. But I just wanted to walk through with you guys the varieties that I am growing this year, and just really kind of introduce this flower, why I feel passionate about growing this flower, and why I will continue to be sharing more content around this. So I'm hoping to pop up maybe like a slideshow of some of the different varieties, but if you are thinking about growing dahlias yourself, I wanted to be able to share with you some of the varieties that I'm growing. Now, if you're growing them just to walk out into your garden and them, you know, be beautiful and aesthetic, I'm not sure that it matters so much on matching up color palettes, but for us, we are thinking about in the long term selling the actual dahlias, and so we know what our consumers are wanting to buy as far as colors, and what's going to mesh well together. So that was kind of the vision when we started, you know, shopping the online catalogs of the different dahlias. We wanted a lot of, you know, like lighter, neutral creams, oranges. I don't know, I just really kind of gravitate to that. I think it's one of those that's super easy to add other flowers to. So I'm going to show you with the photos I have mapped out on my pretty little piece of paper. Alright, so let's dive in. So here I have an assorted burgundy collection, and you guys can see this comes with several different varieties. Now there are so many different styles of dahlias, so that is another thing that I should note, I guess, before I jump into this. There's the dinner plate dahlia, which is like huge. There's the little ball dahlias, which are smaller. This single HS dahlia, you guys can see, takes on a totally different texture than a typical dahlia. Even just right here, you can see several different ones. what I encourage you to do if you are thinking about growing dahlias, or maybe you're wanting to add these into your gardens, there is a book called Discovering Dahlias by Erin Benzonite, and this book has changed this book has just changed so much for me. At Floret Farms, if you're not familiar with it, I will find it online and put it in the description. I own every single one of her books. They're all around flowers. And it has just been such a wealth of knowledge. She has explained so much. She goes in depth about every single dahlia variety, how they're classified. And it was just really, really helpful in knowing the different ones. And also she talks about too the ones that are really great for selling. And like the dinner plate dahlias, they get huge and they're beautiful, but typically they lose their petals faster. They don't withstand the elements of the weather if you're planting them outside. And so we tried to steer clear of growing a lot of those because we want hardy dahlias that we can grow out in the elements here in my zone, which is 7B. So now that I've given you that little information, let's get back to it. Here we have a Ball Moran variety. I'm sure I'm not saying all of these right. We have a collection over here of these different pastel colors. Down here we have an assorted orange, which is really stunning. I think the David Howard has to be probably one of my favorite. We have some more white peach colors, and then another assorted variety down here. So that was kind of our creams, our peaches. We still go into that. We have the Cafe au Laits, which are kind of range from like this white pinkish color. We go into the American Dawn, which is a bit more pink than some of the other ones you'll see on here. But then we kind of have our pastels, our pinks, the different textures here. You can see just by these two on the bottom how different the style of dahlia is, which is really nice if you are wanting to build out the bouquets yourself and sell them. That's not really what we are envisioning. I will be selling these wholesale when we get to a place of being able to sell the blooms. But that is something to be mindful of. If you're wanting to make an arrangement yourself, having those small, they've got like these little bitty dahlias. They have so many different things. You could just grow dahlias of different varieties and create your own bouquet because there's so many different textures and color options, which I think is really fun. And then from Goldenrod, we really went into kind of the warmer tones. We've got a Lakeview Lucky, which kind of has some warmer mauves. You can see we've got a bronze down here. The terracotta is my favorite. So that's really, we got a pastel, a Delta Frank. So these are all generally in the same color schemes for the most part. Like I said, we've got those creams, we've got the light oranges, we've got the pastels, kind of the mauves. That is what we ordered pretty much across the board from all three places that we bought dahlias from. And really what we were trying to do is to figure out, okay, which one of these in the color palettes that we liked is going to produce the best for us. Now, I am doing a video on flowers and talking to you guys about, you know, how the kind of system I put in place for dahlia production, but since I do primarily grow vegetables and I couldn't do a video without sending a little love to all my vegetable growers, this is something really great you could do if you are growing vegetables. Now, you don't have to have these huge sheets of paper and write out everything, but creating a crop plan, if you've got an iPhone or an iPad that you can write on, or some sort of app. You know, I've got a planner on my iPhone and my iPad where I can go in and write these things out. If your goal is to, let's say, sell these little farm shares or CSA boxes where you are comprising, you know, several different products from your farm and sending them off and people are buying them weekly or bi-weekly, it's really good to kind of have your vision on what you're wanting to do, have some sort of organization and structure in place, and that's exactly what we've done with the dahlias. We wanted to be organized on the front end. I wanted a way that I could easily jot down my ideas as I noticed that one variety was combating with pests over another one. I want to just be able to write that down. When you keep these detailed notes, it really just kind of sets you up for the season by having, you know, these big pieces of paper with all the collections on there. By me having just an entire dahlia notebook, I'm going to be able to walk through the raised bed garden this summer and say, all right, you know, this variety, the Cafe au Lait, really struggled with pests, and I couldn't get any blooms that weren't attacked by the pest. Okay, was that a color issue? Was that, you know, the variety that it was versus, I know one year we grew sunflowers that were white, and because of the white petals, it attracted Japanese beetles, and so we really didn't sell hardly any of those sunflowers, but the ones planted right next to it that were a different color, they excelled. And so these are things that we're taking notice of, and I think whether you're growing flowers or vegetables, this is also really important to just set yourself up for success. Let's say you're not selling, you have no interest in doing this. I don't want to pour into a garden to yield food for my family and it not be productive. And so even if your goal is not to grow food, this is also a really good piece of advice, even if you're just growing produce to preserve for your family or for fresh eating or for whatever your why is. I've just found through the years being organized has just, it's been so beneficial for the little bit of work I've had to put in on the front end. So I do want to show you guys, I've showed you right here what a dahlia tuber looks like. So like I had mentioned, some ship them in these single tubers. While that one was a big one, there are also some that are just these super small little petite. This is the Cornell bronze. And then there is a little spot on here where the eye will come out and shoot a sprout. Some of the people I ordered from sent me like big clusters, and I ended up having to just cut off some of the clusters and just finding the tuber that produced an eye where I could plant it. So I am going to show you guys what that looks like as far as me taking this tuber and up potting it to kind of save me some time, give me some time to get the beds ready, and until we've kind of reached the season and the date where we're ready to move them out into the garden. So I will tell you, if you're thinking about ordering dahlias, know that it is not a one size fits all. Just because you receive dahlias from one person and they are a large dahlia doesn't mean you're going to get a large dahlia from another customer. Some it may be clusters that you're having to cut a bunch off of. It's really just going to vary depending on, you know, their dahlia stock. And so I think that was something that I wasn't prepared for. I thought when I was going to order these, they would all be these little potato sized dahlias, and then some of them I was just like, what is happening? So maybe if you have that on the forefront, that'll be good to know. But I don't know if you guys can hear, but I have been caught outside in the middle of a crazy thunderstorm. So once the rain slacks off, I'll make a beeline for the greenhouse and I'll show you what things are going on in there. Hey friends, it is the next morning. We ended up having a crazy rainstorm, thunderstorm that blew through, and I was not able to finish this video, but I did want to come out here and show you guys the dahlias and what it looked like to up pot them. So I'm out here right now. So the dahlias that I showed you guys, I showed you the ones earlier, which were just like these single little dahlias, or tubers. Now I'm going to show you a different company who sends them in these clusters. And this is what I was talking about. Not all of these eyes, like not all the clusters produce these little eyes. And so what you have to do is you have to just like cut it off. And so essentially, like this one dangling doesn't have an eye. So that's no good. And we'll toss it. And so I've taken these, and then I have gotten these big 5-inch pots. And so when you do that, instead of laying the tuber, you know, down like this, like up and down, we're actually going to lay them sideways. I'm not really sure why you do that. That's just with all the research I've heard and have looked at myself, they say that you place them sideways. And I think that's because the eyes sprout up. And so it just is better for the dahlias to do that. And so these I did, gosh, I mean, I did these maybe like a week ago. I've got the rest of these to do today, but you can see here they're already starting to put on these sprouts. I've labeled them all. This is the Cafe au Lait. One thing I will note with the dahlias is we've got everything in the greenhouse, which is pretty full right now. We're watering about once or twice a day. With the dahlias, we're watering every other day. They have a tendency to rot, and that is the last thing you want. These tubers are not cheap, and so you don't want them to rot, and then you just have wasted your money. And so we have got these on a every other day schedule. They look pretty dry before we ever start watering them. But I am going to go fill up one of these trays and then show you guys how I do it. That way you can just have a visual reference. All right, so let's head over here where I have my soil. I have a big water trough that we've used. I've recycled from the duck area, and I have it in the greenhouse, and it actually works really well for holding soil. Now, the ones that have the clusters, they're a bit harder, right? If you've just got a single tuber, it's going to be a lot easier to just place that sideways. But some of these clusters that I've received have been 2-3 times the size of this. So what I have done is I have found the eye on them. So you guys see these little eyes here. I have found those and I have cut them. So what was one cluster, I was able to get 2, 3, some varieties even 4 out of. So that is an option you can do. But this one's small enough that I'm not going to try to cut it. And so what I am doing is I've got my soil in here a little more than halfway. And that's the thing too, is these dahlias can set really just kind of right on the top and barely covered. So I've got it pretty full, as you guys can see here. I'm going to just stick it right there on top. And I'm just going to take my hand and sprinkle this over it. And then, let's see if y'all can see here. What I have done is you can kind of see the little sprout right here sticking up. So that is what I have tried to do. So what I have done is cover most of this up, but then I am kind of brushing back the soil around the one eye. And it's worked really, really well for me. That's what I'm going to do for the rest of the day, is just knock out potting up all of these dahlias. And that way, they're just going to get more established. They're going to grow bigger. I'm not rushed to get them in the ground. We've still got to add prebiotics to that soil. We've got to figure out our trellising options. We've got to cultivate the beds. And really, when we had talked about putting in dahlias, it wasn't until like middle of May. So this gives me a good 2 weeks to let these keep growing and becoming more established in the greenhouse while I'm preparing the area for them out in the raised bed garden. But I hope this video was helpful and really just encouraging if you're wanting to start dahlias. It doesn't have to be this scary thing. I remember, you know, for the longest time thinking people who grew dahlias were these skilled growers. And while that is the case, it doesn't mean I'm out of the game, right? It doesn't mean that I can't grow dahlias, that I can't learn, and really just kind of start investing in my knowledge to really figure out, how do I do this successfully? What does it look like? And I think a lot of that goes back to just taking those detailed notes like what I was talking about. But this is going to be a lot of the content you guys are seeing this summer. Is not only vegetable production, but a lot of the flowers, a lot of our trials when it comes to the dahlias specifically. So I am really excited about that. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I'll talk to you soon.